All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. With the start of the college football season right around the corner, I've talked about the top 25 in every conference projections for each league. And now, with that said, I want to talk about my predictions for the New Year's Six as well as the college football playoff. Of course, this is the last season for the 14 playoff as we're going to see things expanded to 12 teams next year. But you look at this New Year's Six, of course, 12 teams, six games, the two semis for the college football playoff as well as the national championship game. You think about it, you get one invite from the group of five. You also get five conference championship winners from the Power Five, as well as some at large teams to try to see who's going to get into that field of four, as well as rounding out the New Year's Six. So, with the Cotton Bowl, I'm going to go with Texas and USC. And of course, last year's Cotton Bowl was a nightmare for USC as they ran into a very game determined and good Tulane team. I think USC takes on Texas this year. And of course, it's kind of fitting that for the Longhorns last year in the Big 12, that they would make the Cotton Bowl. You think about it, it's been about 20 years since Texas made the Cotton Bowl, but nonetheless, this was a game that, especially in the old days of the Southwest Conference, was synonymous with Texas. Granted, it's no longer at the original Cotton Bowl location, but it's still historic to see the Longhorns play there again. With the Peach Bowl, I'm going with Georgia taking on Washington. And a lot of people are going to say, wow, you don't have Georgia in the college football playoff this year. I don't. I think Georgia definitely has the talent. Just for me, I just feel like, you know what? It's just one of those things where maybe, just maybe, okay, you have a scenario where the spotlight might be too big for Georgia. And I say that because as a two-time defending champs, everybody is going to be gunning for this team. And will they be able to live up to that billing once again? That's the only thing for me that I feel could sidetrack Georgia from winning it all. I have Georgia taking on Washington. And of course, the trips east have not been too good for the Pac 12 teams. Of course, this would officially be Washington's last game as members of the Pac 12 as they're set to go to the Big Ten next year. But nonetheless, the Peach Bowl in Atlanta is always a home away from home for the Dogs. The Orange Bowl, two familiar teams to the Orange Bowl. I got Clemson taking on Penn State. And of course, Clemson made the Orange Bowl last year where they lost to Tennessee. And of course, for Penn State, it's one of those, I think that, Penn State is just going to continue to fly under the radar in the Big Ten East. Of course, this is the last year for the two division format of the Big Ten. Of course, they're shifting things next year when Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA all join. But nonetheless, Penn State just continues to fly under the radar under head coach James Franklin. And it's due to the fact that they're going out there and winning games, but they're not beating Michigan and Ohio State. And of course, Michigan and Ohio State are the teams that are contending to win the Big Ten as well as the national championship. But nonetheless, under James Franklin, he's gotten the Nittany Lions to the Rose Bowl twice. They won the Rose Bowl last year. He has a Fiesta Bowl win under his belt. He also has a Cotton Bowl win under his belt. Now let's see if he can lead the Nittany Lions possibly to an Orange Bowl victory. In the Fiesta Bowl out in the desert, I'm going with two teams that are familiar with this game in Boise State and Ohio State. Ohio State, it's been hit or miss for them at the Fiesta Bowl. They've had some good moments out there. Of course, go back a little bit more than 20 years ago when they beat Miami in overtime in the BCS championship game to win it all. But the last couple of trips to Arizona have not been good for Ohio State when they're not playing Notre Dame. Like their last five trips, the two victories came over Notre Dame, a couple of losses to Clemson, mixed in to the Buckeyes trips out to the West. So let's see if what would happen if they possibly get out there again. On the flip side for Boise, This could potentially be Boise's fourth trip to the Fiesta Bowl. And of course, the Fiesta Bowl has been very good to Boise. You think back a little bit more than 15 years ago when Boise had one of the biggest upsets in college football history when they knocked off Oklahoma in that thriller. Of course, Jared Zabransky to Ian Johnson on the infamous Statue of Liberty play to win that contest. Then, of course, they came back and beat TCU in a battle of undefeateds out there a couple of years after that. And then they got the best of the Arizona Wildcats as well. I think Boise, in my opinion, is the best of the group of five this year. I think they are the best team in the Mountain West as well. And this could be an opportunity for them to showcase themselves, possibly for the Pac 12 or maybe a merger between Pac 4, Pac 12, and Mountain West, whatever you want to call it. We just got to wait and see. But moving on to the Field of Four for the college football playoff. The first semifinal, the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. And of course, this game has lost some of its sizzle in recent years. And I say that because when you think about Rose Bowl, you think about typical Big Ten, Pac 8, Pac 10, Pac 12 matchup. And of course, the playoff has changed that for a variety of reasons. You're not guaranteed the Big Ten, Pac 10 matchup or Pac 12 matchup now. And then, of course, it's only going to change more because we don't know what's going to become of the remaining schools in the Pac 12. Also, on top of that, the expanded college football playoff is going to take away a little bit of that sizzle as well. But nonetheless, I think in this one, it's done right because, in my opinion, you're going to get a traditional Big Ten Pac 12 matchup here between Michigan and Oregon. I think Oregon has what it takes to win the Pac 12. I think Michigan has what it takes to win the Big Ten. And of course, if that were the case, it would be the third consecutive year that the Wolverines have gotten to the college football playoff, but they have not been able to advance past the semifinal. And also, when you think about the Rose Bowl, Michigan historically has struggled when they've gone out west. Would that be the case once again? We'd have to wait and see. And then in the other semifinal matchup, the Sugar Bowl down in New Orleans, I'm going to go with Alabama and Florida State. I think Florida State I think their win to begin the year last year over LSU at the Superdome kind of started to propel the Seminoles back to national relevance. They built off of that with a solid year, and I think they can do some more building this year. As I think Florida State has what it takes to win the ACC. On the flip side for Alabama, of course, some people are going to look at the age of Nick Saban, and they're also going to look at the dominance of Kirby Smart and Georgia in the past couple of years and say, hey, you know what? Are the Crimson Tide done? I'll tell you like this. I think the fact that Alabama didn't get to the playoff last year. I think the fact that a lot of people are writing Saban and Alabama off, I guarantee you, Nick Saban has not forgotten any of that stuff. It's plenty of bulletin board material for his program. He is still one of the best in the business as far as recruiting and coaching. In my opinion, he's the greatest coach ever at the college football level, in my opinion. I think Nick Saban is going to go out there. I think he's going to have a motivated Alabama team to get them to the playoff. And for the championship game, I'm going with Alabama and Oregon. And at the end of the day, I'm going with Nick Saban to reign supreme again, and the SEC, of course. It's just a scenario where a guy like him, he's too good at what he does. And I'll tell you like this, Nick Saban has forgotten more about coaching at the college level than most people will ever learn in a lifetime. And again, like I said, not to sound like a broken record, but I think the fact that people are overlooking Alabama, I know that they're going to begin this year in the top 10, but I think the fact that people, or some people rather, are overlooking Alabama, I think that's going to be motivation for Saban and his team. And with that, when it's all said and done, I'm rolling with Alabama, the Tide, if you will, to win the national championship for the 2023 college football season. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 pounds of sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.